Hello everyone, it's Jamarl Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So of course I'm at the left forum. I'm in an apartment. I'm in a hotel. It's 3:30 in the morning. I'm tired. I don't feel well. I don't know if Amy Goodman gave me something. She had a cold. She was like, I went to shake her hand and I said, hey, you do great work. Under normal circumstances, Amy Goodman does great work. I know you guys feel some kind of way about the Russia thing, but you have to admit, democracy now, at the very least up to this point, has been somewhat of a decent independent journalistic endeavor. I said, hey, you've done great work. And I went to shake her hand. She says, wait, I have a cold. I said, I don't give a shit. I'm still shaking your hand. I may be paying for that right now. Um, I I sat in the last few panels, and in sitting in those panels, you know, I felt myself getting angry. Look, I'm an Aries moon. It happens. I just have to process the emotion. You've seen me rage out on these videos. When I'm raging out, it's often not planned. I'm feeling a particular way. The Aries moon is a hard dog to keep on the porch. And again, this is not from an astrology standpoint. I mean, it's not pushing astrology. It's descriptive of my personality. Um, I I didn't know where it was coming from. I honestly didn't know where it was coming from. I just felt myself getting mentally aggravated. It was unfocused. It wasn't going any particular place. And as I walked out the conference, I sat there to try to figure out, why am I pissed? Why am I pissed off? I couldn't figure it out. I could not figure it out. But I think I know what it is. I have this feeling, this angst. It's this thing of, we need to do something. The world is at stake. Civilizations collapse when you get a certain level of inequities in the economy. Not just inequities in the economy. When you're looking at a situation of how the wealth is concentrated, which regardless of the society, how the wealth is concentrated is a large indicator on a collapse of that particular society. When that society doesn't have the capacity, or when that society is not obeying real law, real reality, not the subordinate reality they create, but actual real reality, meaning meaning the resources that they use, they need to be able to have to replenish those particular resources when they're living in confines of the environmental conditions. In addition to accruing wealth in one particular center, those societies tend to collapse. Beyond that, the ecological damage is an issue. It's like one issue after the next, and these issues are real and severe. I am perfectly aware of these issues. It's If you play chess, you're aware of it. It's like you see how you do something, and that something has consequences. Now, those consequences may not hit you until 10 moves off, but those moves have consequences. It's not like those things are happening in a vacuum. Those things are happening in real time and in real people. The damage, the toll, the things that are taking place to individuals in this particular country. And these guys are papering over those things as if it's nothing. Obama's awesome. The economy is running great. We have 4% unemployment. All of these things are Orwellian. They're Orwellian. We don't have 4% unemployment. You have people who gave up looking for a job. Don't tell me you have 4% unemployment just to protect Obama. This aggravates the shit out of me. People have this impression of what Obama is, and I always ask the question, why do you think he's that way? You're investing some aspect of yourself into that particular person, and you want that person to be that way. My mom would say, I don't understand why he's going to try to pass the Trans-Pacific Partnership if it's going to make our laws subordinate to other nations, like a foreign body. If Mitt Romney did that, if it was Mitt Romney, and we were having the same conversation, and I said Mitt Romney was trying to pass a Trans-Pacific Partnership, he was trying to make our laws subordinate to a foreign tribunal, allowing corporations to sue our particular country if they don't like a particular law, meaning if that law adversely affects their profits. I'm sorry your kid got cancer. I'm sorry you have leukemia. I'm sorry. This particular chemical caused it, but you're hurting my profits. You can understand I have a wife and a kid, and we need a third house. We need a third vacation spot. I need a bigger Hummer. I'm sorry. I feel bad for your kid, though. It sucks. Like, this is what's taking place. It was Obama that was doing it. And they were shocked and aghast that he would put through something like that would be that disastrous and that monstrous in regards to how it would affect this particular country, how it would affect employment in this country, how it would affect your wages. Understand the fact that there's a global community. directly, adversely affects your wages and your jobs. When Trump supporters are making this case, Trump supporters are right. They're right on that point. You can say whatever you want to say about him. But when Trump or his supporters are making that case, and I don't give a shit whether Trump was just jumping on the bandwagon, he's right. He's right on that point. You have a situation where a company can fire the workers in America, ship those jobs overseas. They were paying these American workers $20 an hour. They were paying these guys $3 an hour. The people who were at those companies originally may have been paid $1 an hour, so they're getting $2 more and they feel fucking awesome. You've just fired this American worker. Then the trade deals allow them to bring those products back into this country without tariffs or anything else affecting or adding any particular cost to those products. Meaning, I can make it overseas, I can bring it back into this country, and I can essentially accrue the profits to the top. He's a capitalist. He's a capitalist. That's the ultimate goal, to maximize profit. And that's essentially what he's doing. Now, as an individual and as a person, you look at that and you say, that's fucking horrible. They're firing American workers to make additional profit. You're in a capitalistic society. Wake the fuck up. That's exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Now, Trump supporters may bitch about that, the trade deals and everything else, but they must understand that they're in a capitalistic society. You can't have it both ways. Those trade deals make sense from a capitalistic standpoint. That guy wants to accrue as much profit as possible. Those workers are paying in his ass because they're expensive. Whatever he is doing in regards to a product that he's making or whatever those things are doing, those things are means to an end to accrue profit. The point is not the product. The point is not the service. The point is the profit. The point is the profit. When Obama is trying to pass health care, the Affordable Care Act, and he's protecting drug companies, he's protecting insurance companies, he's forcing people to buy insurance at these companies. When these Democrats signed on to this, when Democrats supported some for it, myself being one of them, I thought it was an improvement. I've changed my mind on that. They knew full well that they were protecting these entities. He knew full well that providing a mandate forces people to be chained to a private enterprise. He knew full well that by allowing the drug companies to set their own prices and protecting them, that those drug companies can continue to rape the American population. Now, if you're asking me, what is in Obama's heart? I would say that is in Obama's heart. One policy after the next. If you're going to say you don't see anything, you're not surprised that Mitt Romney is doing it, I have to question, why are you surprised that Obama is doing it? You're investing some aspect of yourself into him, into believing that he is a particular thing, or he may be doing a particular thing, but just understand that's you. That's not him. I can only judge him by the things that he does. My perspective of him, yes, is going to be skewed, but at the very least, the real world phenomena of the things that he's doing does give some kind of context into who he is. Otherwise, he wouldn't be doing those things. That's a bit of a detour. But yes, I have a certain amount of anger towards Obama in this case. He came in running like a progressive, and then he gets in that office. He does things that are monstrous and disgusting, and would turn around and point to Trump as if Trump is doing something that's monstrous and disgusting. Trump is, but so is Obama. Trump is an extension of the prior president. Period. It's not like he's doing something that's completely different and he's doing something that's so way out of the ordinary. He's doing the same things that Obama was doing. Yes, he's more ghastly. Yes, he's worse. No, he doesn't give a shit about the people he's murdering abroad. But neither did Obama. Yes, Trump is going to be worse in that sense. But understand, Obama's doing the same thing. That when they're talking about these ICE raids, yes, these things are ghastly, but Obama was also deporting these people more so than any other president. That's all I'm saying. I get angry when I'm talking to Democrats, these heelbots, and they would say these things as if this guy was so fucking weak. Oh, he's so weak. He's so powerless. He couldn't do anything about it. He's weak. He's weak. He was just the president of the United States. He was just the president of the United States. Think about what we're saying. The fact that Donald Trump is in that office and exerting executive authority, and yes, the things he's doing is horrible, but it shows the power of that office. It shows the power of that office. Yes, it also shows the constraints that are placed on that office. But Obama didn't even push. He didn't push. Public option, off the table. The fact that Bush was murdering civilians and murdered a million Iraqis. Prosecution, off the table. The fact that we were torturing people abroad. The fact that that's against the law, against our own laws, against international laws. We were torturing people. He hid those reports. He comes out We tortured some folks. Why are you being folksy? You're talking about murdering and hurting other human beings, putting human beings in cages, beating those human beings, exposing those human beings to terrors. That's what we're talking about. And you're being folksy, as if you're papering over the things that we were doing to these other people. This is fucking amazing. It's fucking amazing. It's just fucking amazing. I don't want to hear people defend him. I don't want to hear people defend him. His record stands for itself. The fact that Donald Trump is in that office is some testament to the failure of the prior administration. That's the honest goddamn truth. Any hillbot that want to make that conversation, they can make that conversation, but understand the fact that he failed in that office. And the fact that Trump is in that office is a testament to it. This is a detour. Like I said, I was pissed, and I didn't necessarily know why. I think I know why. Because none of these things was talking about a way forward. All of the meetings that I sat in, for the most part, everybody in the room already agreed. They're having summits, and they're giving you information. That's great. Some of the information I didn't know. The majority I did, but some of it I didn't know. But it's like you're in a situation where you want something. You're craving something. You have this thing of you want something. You're looking for something very specific. And they're looking for something very specific. You're not getting it because they don't have it to give. What's the way forward? That's what I'm looking for. And they don't have that to offer. Meaning each and every summit I go into, for the most part, is just nailing down things that we already agree upon. But there's a difficulty in saying, where do you go from here? And that seems to be somewhat unclear in these meetings. Look, from my own standpoint, I would argue that there is a way forward. I would say this. In the same way that you're pulling people into a summit here, this summit needs not to be for leftists. It needs to be for everybody. And it needs not to be national, at least not immediately. It needs to be state. It needs to be local. I would argue that you start with some kind of summit, some kind of organization where you're inviting earnest people, and that's an important distinction. People who earnestly want to change things. Now you can focus that on this idea of we shouldn't have money in our politics. That's agreed upon across the board. We should not have money in our politics. You can have that summit based upon an economic message. The economy should work for everybody. Now, I'm not going to get everything I want. I'm a leftist. I'm further to the left. I would go into this thing making an argument that public or private property shouldn't exist, at least not in the way that it exists currently. And I can make an argument that any private property was ultimately taken at the end of a sword and at the end of somebody else's death. And that's true. Nobody was here to give those things away. Those things were just taken. Meaning this land is common heritage, and the resources of this land is common heritage. And any resource that a person is trying to say that they own or trying to assert that it's theirs was taken at the end of a sword. At which point do we allow burglary to define who owns a particular product? And why are we okay with burglary being the same thing true for resources? So yes, you're going to steal Native Americans' land, and now you're going to rape that land for the resources, and you're going to give that land to private enterprise to make a profit off of it and rape the public in doing so. That's true. That point is unassailable. You can make this case that says, well, private property exists because people had to do something to the product and everything else. But the key point is that nobody was there to give that to anybody. It is common heritage. It belongs to everybody. It belongs to everybody. The fact that it was stolen for whatever reason just doesn't apply to people. It doesn't matter. It was stolen so long ago that they forgot the fact that it was stolen, and they ascribed value and ownership to these things. Now, look, I own a lot, a chessboard. I used to own a car and everything else. Yes, there is certain things as private property. I understand there's certain things that you own per se. And then it will be a hard case to make, or at the very least a hard thing to convince people of, that car, that house, that whatever, is not necessarily theirs. So that's not the argument I make. I'm just making this argument that resources are common heritage. That's the argument that I make. That's an aside. I'm sorry. Again, tired. It's 3 in the morning. With this idea of going forward, though, specific steps. Have a summit locally, statewide. In that summit, go with an economic message and go with a message of our election should not be bought and this economy should work for everyone. Constrain that message. And I'm saying constrain that message because whether you believe it or not, you do want Trump supporters there. You want independents there. You want a group of people there. And you want those people to argue and bitch and complain. And ultimately, you want those people to come to some level of Venn diagram of these are the things that we want. It can be statewide, so it can represent the specifics of a particular state. And when it comes up to say, who do I want to put in office? The question becomes, does that person fit into the narrative that we ourselves have said this is what we want? Now, if you exclude a demographic, meaning if you say you don't want Trump supporters, if you call it a leftist forum, if you call it a leftist summit, well, you're specific to that particular thing. I'm saying allow the other in. Allow them in. Allow them to speak their piece. You're not going to agree with them on immigration, so take that off the table for the moment. What you will get them on is the economic message. When you get in that office, you will be able to assert things in immigration and environment and everything else. But don't bring that shit up as the main points. The main points that you're looking at is an economy that works for everybody. Main point. Money out of politics. The second point. And drill those home as the main points of argument and have those people essentially agree upon a certain thing, meaning we are voting in political unison on this. You're creating a substructure under the current political structure. So you recognize that political structure for the most part runs on cash. In recognizing that it runs on cash, you also recognize that you need to create something under that to force a politician to behave in a particular way, meaning you need a group of people with pitchforks. You can get those group of people with pitchforks, and you can organize those people if those people can believe that the things that you're in alignment with, you're in alignment with. I know it sounds weird, but it's like right now you have factions of the country. You have 49% of the people that don't vote. You have Trump supporters at throats of Democrats. Democrats and Republicans, for the most part, fight back and forth. The thing is, the interesting point is when you go person to person to person, and you say, hey, what do you want? What do you actually want? Oftentimes, there will be spaces where you agree. The economics is a space where you agree. Or at the very least, they would agree with a particular message. Understand, Bernie Sanders was doing amazing in Trump country. So was some of these other progressives who was running. They did amazing in areas that Democrats were completely written off. The red and blue divide doesn't exist. It's played up in media. It's played up in all these other circles. The right has a perspective of the left. That perspective of the left allows them to have this image in their head of what they're against. Same thing with the left. Now, the images, to some degree, are somewhat correct. I mean, to varying degrees. But I would make the argument that you're trying to come up with an alignment of the things that you agree on. And I'd argue that the things that you agree on, look, I have Trump supporters on my page. They hated when I bashed Trump. But those supporters, for the most part, are still on my page. They're there for a reason. They're there for a reason. I would argue a certain amount of integrity and honesty when you're going about your way, at the very least, gets them to listen. Whether they agree with you, it's a separate point, but at the very least, it gets them to listen. If you're having this summit, and those people say, okay, I'll come. And look, you're trying to get leftists, so yes, it's a summit, but you want the people in your particular state, but you want those people to realize that we're creating a political apparatus to control the current political apparatus because that apparatus runs on cash. And if you can come to some consensus, meaning you vote on a platform, a people's platform in that particular state, and you hold that platform up against the people who are running, two things are going to happen. One, you're going to have people who spring up to represent that platform because they realize that if they represent that platform, they can get elected. And then it's not about cash, it's about the representation at that point. They need cash to run, that's true. But ultimately, the cash they're probably going to get from grassroots because they understand that part of the process in getting elected on this particular platform is you can't take money from corporate sources. No super PACs. You're going to be running for the people, meaning your support is coming from the people who are putting you in that office. Full stop. Full stop. The second thing that's going to happen is A, you're going to get people to spring up. B, you're going to end up getting people out of their seats, meaning you're going to put major pressure on that political apparatus to get your will asserted. The will that you guys have said, this is what we want as a people's platform. You toe this line or your ass is taken out of your seats. You toe this line, you're taken out of your seats. Now, the people's platform is not an end-all be-all. The people's platform is very specific to a floor. It's like saying we're having a base level that we're willing to exist on, because you're not going to agree with these guys on everything. You're looking for the level that you agree with them on. Now, the candidate who gets in office, the hope is you start to constrain Republican behavior and you start to constrain Democrat behavior, because ultimately the left, or the public, is to the left of both of the parties. The public is on board for single payer. Other parties? Other parties? The Republican Party is essentially a band of rebels that are off the political spectrum. They're extremists. The Democratic Party is essentially the Republican Party. We don't have a leftist vehicle in this country. I'd argue that the People's Platform, even if you include Trump supporters, will be a leftist platform. It may not be to the left to the degree that you want it to be, but it's a damn sure further to the left than these guys. And it allows you a platform to do more. Meaning the people you put in that office, well, those people have somewhat of a leeway to do more. I would wager that you'd get Trump supporters support for environmental stuff if your economic stuff was being taken care of. I'd wager that you'd get their support for a lot of stuff if the economics was taken care of. I don't care what, in the same way they would say, I don't care what Republicans do in that office. They would probably say, I don't care what you do in that office if you're making sure the economics is taken care of. That's the point that I'm making to you. A people's platform provides a floor of debate. No extremist parties. We don't have extremist parties anymore. This is the platform. You toe this line. This is the sheer basics that we're willing to accept as a population of a particular state. Now, yes, you may have those summits aggregate to a major summit in regards to a presidential election. But these summits are just there to say, this is what we want. And if you're not towing this line, you don't get elected. And you have a certain amount of political unison. Political unison is the important thing. Millions of people voting in unison on, yes, we're willing to vote this way. If you don't toe our line, you're not getting our vote, meaning millions of people are not voting for you and they're voting against you. That is the only way forward that I can think of in a sense of trying to constrain the political parties and constrain of breaking that monopoly or breaking that duopoly and trying to get other blood into that process, and you get them to listen to you instead of cash that's pushing them in a different direction. You have two choices. You have pitchforks pushing the politicians, or you have money pushing the politicians. Right now, people are so focused on their jobs. I have to make my wage. I have to get this. I have to support my family. I have a kid to feed. I have a car I need to pay for. I have a house I need to pay for. I have all these responsibilities and bills. I have medical care I need to pay for. I need to pay for health insurance. I need to pay for all these things. All these things have enraptured me. All of these entanglements. My life is complicated, and I'm focused on those things because if I don't have these things, then my life falls apart. Now, because of that, their focus narrows. I'm looking at the things that allow me to persist myself. My life is difficult, and I need to do what I need to do. I don't have time for this other shit. I need to focus on what I'm doing. Right off the bat, you can see the problem there. It completely takes their eye off the ball in regards to politics, not realizing that the politics, the things that go on in these places, the regulations that these guys put out, is adversely affecting them, and to some degree is forcing them into that mode. You're running on a hamster wheel, not because you need to run on a hamster wheel, but because the regulations and policies put in place put pressure on you to run on that hamster wheel. You should hear some of the things that these economists are saying in regards to, yeah, having these people indebted is a good thing. It's a good thing. Now, I've always made this argument that the capitalistic model attacks the things that people need to live. Well, these economists, Alan Greenspan, some of these other guys, Volcker, said the same thing. It's not just me. Yes, I didn't know they said it, but yes, they did say it. It's good to have these people indebted. It's good to have these people, these workers, indebted and in difficult situations because it keeps them, it shuts them up, and it makes them just work. They don't bitch, they just work. They're not out here protesting, they're out here striking. They're out here doing those things because they have bills and mortgages and kids and drugs and medication to feed, to take care of. So I would argue that the way forward, if you're talking about a political revolution, to create a structure under the political structure and have that structure to press as hard as it possibly can on that political structure, meaning whether it's a Green Party candidate, whether it's a Democrat, whether it's a Republican, ultimately what you care about is, are you towing the people's line? And if you're not, away with you. That's what I would argue to be the way forward. I can't think of anything else in regards to a plan on getting things done. Now the question becomes, how do you have those summits in the state? How do you aggregate those people to come to you in the state? And how do you get those people to say, yes, we're going to come to this particular summit and get this advertisement out and get the word out and get people to show up? I don't know. I don't know. That's where I'm at a loss. But if you could do that, you have a chance of changing the political apparatus and changing the structure itself. So I'll leave it at that. Alright guys, if you enjoyed the content, feel free to share, write, subscribe, and you can always support the work through Patreon.